So we're sitting in the shadow of the Shwangunk Ridge in New Paltz with Olana O'Connor, who immigrated 23 years ago from Ukraine at the almost age of 16. And now you have children of your own here, but you still have family in Ukraine. Tell us, what is that experience like for you, and who are they?
Sure. I just wanted to first thank American people and citizens and friends that for their support of Ukrainian solidarity, of Ukrainian fight for freedom. I have been living between two time zones, between war and peace, since last Thursday. I have very close family who are still in Ukraine. My grandparents, who are 83, who are in and out of bomb shelters. My grandmother, Yaroslava, and my grandfather, Bogdan, they have been my rock, my support throughout my childhood in Ukraine. I've spent every weekend with them, going and exploring the world. My grandmother inspired me to love history, to always wonder. She inspired the sense of wonder about the world in me, and also to believe in possibilities. I spent time talking to her about the world. And today we're talking about war, and we're talking about peace. And she was born right at the breakout of World War II. She grew up with German tanks in her yard, and her grief and her anger and her defiance is at the idea that she perhaps will meet her death in war, just like when she was born.
And what other family members do you have that are?
My father's side, on my father's side, I have my aunt and my cousin who, with her children who are my kids' age, who just informed me today that the women were able to be driven to the border and to become refugees. So right now, on Friday afternoon, they are in the border about to cross into Romania. To look for some kind of a safe haven. They had to leave their husbands behind. They had to leave my aunt's son behind to continue the fight against the Russian aggression.
Are they able to maintain contact with them through cellular service, or has that been?
Luckily, that's how we have been communicating. We have been using Viber mostly, which is just a communication service where we're able to exchange messages. Sometimes there are some brief phone calls in between when they have to hide and while there is service.
Is there any risk of that being interrupted?
My hope is that of how much support they're getting from technological companies and the support to maintain contact, hopefully we will not. But there's always danger of the Russian missiles hitting some key communication towers.
And you mentioned another cousin, I believe, who was not able to get to the border.
Yes, I have two cousins who are currently fighting in the war. Last Friday, they made a decision. They're both professionals who had families and lives, and they volunteered for the military service. So they are currently safeguarding the perimeters of certain regions where there is a possibility of the Russian attacks in Western Ukraine. And then on my mother's side, there are also many cousins with their children, but they're not able to make it to the border yet. So they're staying behind and doing their part. My old school, my teachers and students are all they're weaving nets for security for the troops, for the Ukrainian troops. They're baking bread. They're making pierogi, they're making borscht to feed the resistance.
So what is it? I mean, we hear on our side about like people just like picking up arms, but how does that look? I mean, how has your family spoken about what that looks like? Like, where do they go to join? You know, or
Believe it or not, because of the technology, because of the widespread communication, there are many centers that are set up throughout the city. So where the government is like a regional government offices, there is also army offices where people go and volunteer. They sign up right away. In Ukraine, there is conscription. So where when you're a man and you're 18 years old, you go into service and you serve between 9 months, I believe, or a year. So you get basic military training. So a lot of these men were able to have some basics. They know some basics. Some people that are not able to fight due to different health reasons or age, they also are signing up for blood drives, and they're donating their blood for the soldiers that are hit in battle.
and so, what is your hope for Ukraine?
You know, I believe that good and love will overcome the evil and the fear of war. And right now, this is an unprecedented time that a country that people could probably not find on a map, whose language background has been questioned, is now on the forefront of resisting geopolitical aggression of the Russian Federation. They are the gates into Europe. One of the symbols of Ukraine is a woman holding a shield and a sword. And that's what Ukrainians feel themselves to be. They're that strength, that love, that freedom. They believe in their independence. They believe that they're taking up arms not only for Ukraine, but for the freedom of the world.
And what would you say about Americans or America's place in this situation? It's kind of, Ukraine is not part of NATO yet, and therefore that complicates things.
Right. In the 1990s, in the beginning of 1990s, when the Soviet Union was falling apart, Ukraine was one of the 3 top nations who possessed nuclear power. Ukraine has given up its nuclear power in 1991, I believe, or 94. And in exchange, the United States and Great Britain and other Western powers had pledged its moral and physical support in an act of aggression. I think no one had predicted or thought that in 30 years, Russia will invade Ukraine and try to twist the free world into submission with its threats of nuclear attacks, of atomic weapons. And I think the leadership of the world, of NATO, of the United States, is working very hard to outsmart a madman. I think what we are seeing and what is actually happening are pieces of the puzzle trying to decide the fate of the world. And it is my hope and it is my belief that people in power will make the best decision for everyone, including Ukrainian people.
Do you feel that the news is a proper or good representation of Ukraine and what's happening over there?
You know, as an educator and historian, I understand that we are living in a unique time when history is happening in real time more than we have ever experienced. I think the internet and the news, whatever channel you subscribe, or TikTok or Telegram or Instagram, has become our textbook. And I think it is important to have skills to look at what's happening and to make a decision that you will be comfortable with what you believe the truth to be.
Go ahead.
My truth comes from connection, comes from voices, comes from seeing faces of people that are living in the horror of war. People whose hopes and dreams of their life have been crushed with the decision of one man. And I believe that we're stronger than Vladimir Putin and his aggression in Russia. Because as of last night, Russians are not allowed to even say no to war, that they are risking an imprisonment of up to 3 years, and if they actively continue to demonstrate, up to 15 years. And I think we live in a country and in a world where we still have a right to absorb everything that's around us, but with a critical eye, and to make decision of how we want our world to be remembered. Because in history, as a history teacher, I have seen many, many primary source documents, photographs, videos of war that seemed to be a long time ago. And as we're looking at whether it is train stations full of the Jewish people of Europe, whether it is the camps, and we look at them and we say, what went wrong? What are we seeing? What questions do we have? How can we prevent something like that from happening? And I think today we have that power. We have the power to change what can be in history books. I am a mother, I'm a teacher, and I'm a citizen. And as I watched my daughter cry about the war on Monday, and after having some conversations in the community and speaking with my husband, we have said that the world is in the hands of our younger generation. Their reaction to war, their fear, their tears is normal. It is part of being human. Being afraid of tyranny and of your life being threatened is normal. And them being part of this world, even this scary world and the events that are happening, perhaps will determine their choices and their thoughts in the future. Perhaps this incident, this war, is our hope that our children all over the world will make good choices and peace will prevail.